Welcome back to Nightshade Tales Top 10 Number 1. Our first story takes us to the historic Stanley Hotel in Colorado. This hotel inspired the famous horror movie The Shining. Room 217 is known for its chilling encounters. A woman named Alice checked into the room one winter night, completely unaware of its haunted history. As Alice settled in, she noticed something odd. The lights flickered and the temperature dropped sharply. She shrugged it off, thinking it was just the old wiring. But as the night deepened, she woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps in her room. Terrified, she looked around but saw nothing. When she turned on the light, her suitcase was open and her clothes were scattered. Then she felt a cold breath on her neck. Alice spent the rest of the night huddled in a chair, praying for daylight. The staff later told her the story of a housekeeper who had died in the room decades ago. She's known to check on guests, and Alice was her latest visit. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 2. The story is about a boy named Liam. He was home alone one night when the phone rang. It was an unknown number. Curious, he answered, and what he heard chilled him to the bone. The voice on the other end was raspy and slow. It said, "I see you." Liam froze, his heart racing. He hung up, thinking it was a prank, but then the phone rang again. This time, the voice described what Liam was wearing. It was impossible. No one could see him. Panicking, Liam ran to lock all the doors and windows. He tried calling his parents, but the line was dead. Just as he thought it couldn't get worse, he heard a knock on the door. Slowly he approached, peering through the peephole. There was no one there. When his parents returned later, they found Liam in the corner of the room, clutching the phone, too scared to speak. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 3. This story comes from a group of teenagers who decided to explore an abandoned asylum. They had heard stories about it being haunted, but thought it would be a fun adventure. As they wandered through the dark hallways, they heard whispers. At first, they laughed it off, thinking it was just the wind. But then they saw something. A shadow moved across the hallway ahead of them. They called out, thinking it was another friend, but no one answered. Suddenly, the door to one of the rooms slammed shut. Scared but curious, they opened the door. Inside, they found a dusty old wheelchair rocking back and forth on its own. One of them felt a hand grab his shoulder, but when he turned, no one was there. They ran out, vowing never to return. To this day, they swear they heard the laughter of a child echoing behind them as they fled. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 4. On a cold autumn night, a man named David was driving home when he saw a hitchhiker on the side of the road. Feeling sorry for her, he stopped and offered her a ride. She was quiet but polite, and she gave him directions to her house. As they neared her destination, she turned to him and said, "Be careful on this road. Many accidents happen here." David nodded, and when he turned back to ask her something, she was gone. The passenger seat was empty. Panicked, David stopped the car and looked around, but there was no sign of her. When he reached the nearest town and told the story, locals said it wasn't the first time. A woman had died in a car crash on that road years ago, and she's been warning drivers ever since. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 5. When Mia and her family moved into their new home, they discovered an old doll in the attic. It had glassy eyes and a faint, eerie smile. Mia decided to keep it, thinking it was harmless. Soon, strange things began happening. Objects moved on their own, and at night Mia heard faint giggles. One morning she found the doll sitting at the edge of her bed, even though she was sure she had left it on the shelf. Terrified, Mia tried to throw the doll away, but it reappeared in her room the next day. Her parents didn't believe her until they heard footsteps in the attic one night. When they went to check, the doll was gone, but they found claw marks on the walls. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 6. This story is about a man named Jorge who lived in a small village. One evening, while walking home by the river, he heard the sound of a woman crying. Curious and concerned, he followed the sound. He saw a woman dressed in white, her hair covering her face. She seemed lost. Jorge called out to her, but she didn't respond. As he got closer, she suddenly turned to him, revealing a face full of tears and empty eyes. The woman let out a blood-curdling scream and vanished into thin air. Terrified, Jorge ran home. Villagers later told him the legend of La Llorona, the weeping woman who roams the riverbanks mourning her lost children. They say if you hear her cry, it's a warning of danger. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 7. Sarah found an old ornate mirror while cleaning out her grandmother's attic. It was beautiful, but had an unsettling vibe. Her grandmother warned her not to take it home, but Sarah didn't listen. That night, Sarah noticed something strange. When she looked into the mirror, her reflection didn't move the same way she did. It smiled when she didn't. Over the next few days, Sarah started hearing whispers and seeing shadows in the mirror. One night, her reflection reached out and tried to grab her. Sarah smashed the mirror in a panic, but even after it was gone, she could still hear whispers in her room at night. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 8. Emma and Jake were avid hikers. One weekend, they decided to explore a new trail. Everything was fine until they met a man hiking alone. He was friendly, but gave off a strange vibe. The man warned them not to take a certain path, saying it was dangerous. They thanked him and continued. A few minutes later, they realized they had taken the wrong path. When they turned back to find the man, he was gone. They later found out that the man had died on that trail years ago in a rock slide. Many hikers reported seeing him, always giving the same warning before vanishing into thin air. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 9. Late one night, a group of friends decided to explore an abandoned railway station. The place was eerie, with rusted tracks and broken lights. As they wandered, they heard the distant sound of a train whistle. At first, they thought it was just their imagination, but then they saw lights approaching on the tracks. A train appeared out of nowhere, moving fast but making no sound. The train vanished as quickly as it appeared. Locals later told them about a tragic accident where a train derailed at the station decades ago. The ghostly train has been seen by many, replaying the moment of its doom. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 10. Our final story takes place in an old cemetery. A teenager named Lily dared her friends to visit the cemetery at night. She wanted to prove she wasn't afraid of ghosts. As they explored, they saw a dark shadow moving between the tombstones. At first, they thought it was an animal, but then it stood up. The shadow had the shape of a man, but its eyes glowed red. The friends ran, but Lily tripped. When she looked up, the shadow was hovering over her. It whispered her name before vanishing. Lily never returned to the cemetery, and she still dreams about the shadow to this day.